Translator, Dark Angel. Editor Kurisu Linghan stepped into the martial training court, and at once his gaze fell upon a beautiful young maiden practicing martial techniques at its very heart. She wore a white warrior's dress that fluttered lightly, and each of her movements flowed with the elegance of a celestial maiden descending from the heavens. Around her, a circle of young men and women had gathered to watch. The young women looked on with burning admiration, while the young men wore intoxicated expressions, utterly enraptured as they observed her practice. That young maiden was Shen Ziyan. Every single day she cultivated at this very place. She was indeed exceedingly beautiful, yet when placed beside Liu Yutong, her radiance dimmed. Furthermore, in his previous life, Ling Han had long been accustomed to beholding beauties of breathtaking splendor, so naturally his heart did not stir in the slightest. His predecessor had been a hopeless romantic, but that predecessor was now dead, and the one who commanded this body was a man who had once stood at the heaven tier. Ling Han drew in a long breath. He felt the final traces of his predecessor's obsessive emotions dissipate like mist under the morning sun. At this moment, he was at last the sole and undisputed master of this body. His predecessor had harboured two attachments he could never release. One was his father, and the other was Shen Ziyan. Now that these two obsessions had been completely neutralized, the predecessor could finally and utterly depart, no longer leaving behind even the faintest influence over this body. In truth, the predecessor had known full well that he and Shen Ziyan could never share a future together, so he had only intended to admire her quietly from afar. Otherwise, had his obsession been something like insisting on marrying her and no one else, Ling Han would have found himself in grave trouble. "Get out of here!" It was at this moment that Shen Ziyan halted her movements and, with icy disdain, hurled those words at him. How domineering. Did she believe that her family owned the martial training court? Naturally, Ling Han had no desire to waste even a breath on such a condescending and arrogant girl who imagined the world revolved around her. The obsession was gone, and in his eyes, Shen Ziyan was neither incomparably beautiful nor astonishingly talented. She did not even possess the qualifications for him to spare her another moment's consideration. For the sake of his predecessor, he did not respond to her insulting words. He simply turned, intending to leave. "Stop right there!" A young man clad in embroidered garments leapt out. In but a few steps he had rushed before Ling Han, barring his path. "Didn't you hear younger sister disciple Shen's words? She told you to roll out of here. You don't use your legs to roll." His name was Cheng Hao, the second son of the clan head of the other great clan in Grey Cloud Town. He was also one of Shen Ziyan's admirers. Yet Shen Ziyan had never treated him any differently from the others. Now he had finally seized an opportunity to display himself before her, teach Ling Han a harsh lesson, and thereby win Shen Ziyan's favour. Moreover, this was not the first time he had bullied Ling Han. Among those he could oppress, Ling Han's status was the highest. Thus, bullying him granted Cheng Hao the greatest satisfaction. Ling Han's eyes turned cold and severe. The scenes of his predecessor being bullied by Cheng Hao replayed vividly before him. Originally, had Cheng Hao remained but another indistinct face in the crowd, Ling Han would not have troubled himself. But now that Cheng Hao had stepped forward, even if he had not provoked him so brazenly, Ling Han had no intention of letting matters pass. "Are you looking to die?" he asked, his voice thick with killing intent. "Ha! Ling Trash, are you threatening me?" Cheng Hao burst into laughter, yet his gaze soon hardened. "We haven't seen each other for just a few days, and now you've grown bold enough to talk back to me?" The surrounding students all laughed. Ling Han's identity as a piece of trash was common knowledge throughout the academy, so to them these words sounded like the greatest joke under heaven. Ling Han merely smiled coldly and strode toward Cheng Hao. "What now? Are you going to beg me to spare you?" "If you're going to beg, make sure you speak loudly enough," Cheng Hao said indifferently. "Pah!" A sharp and resounding slap rang out, and in that instant all laughter ceased. Cheng Hao clutched his face with one hand, disbelief written across his features. Just now he had actually been slapped by Ling Han. Slapped by a piece of trash. What kind of humiliation was this? He immediately flew into a berserk rage. Blue veins bulged across his forehead as he snarled. "Are you tired of living, daring to strike me?" "I can't hit you," Ling Han replied calmly. His predecessor had been bullied by Cheng Hao time and again. He was merely collecting a little interest now. "How dare you!" Cheng Hao had never imagined that Ling Han would not only fail to beg for mercy in panic, but would even dare answer back. Already seething with fury, how could he restrain himself? He immediately raised his hand and struck toward Ling Han. The present Ling Han stood at the 4th layer of the body refining tier. Though still 2 layers below Cheng Hao, they were both within the middle stage of the body refining tier. With Ling Han's combat experience as a former heaven tier warrior, how could he possibly lose? "Pah!" Cheng Hao had just lifted his hand when Ling Han responded. Though he moved later, he arrived first, his right hand flashing out and landing yet another solid slap upon Cheng Hao's face. The force behind it sent Cheng Hao staggering, and the hand he had raised struck only empty air. "Trash!" Ling Han said evenly, shaking his head. Silence descended upon the crowd. The label of trash had always belonged to Ling Han, yet now none found it amusing. Cheng Hao had been slapped twice. If the first blow could be blamed on Cheng Hao's carelessness, then the second could only be acknowledged as Ling Han's display of skill. But how could this be? Wasn't Ling Han the publicly recognized greatest piece of trash in the entire academy? Cheng Hao, meanwhile, had been driven to such fury that his eyes turned bloodshot. With a great roar, he hurled himself at Ling Han once more, yet the disparity between them was far too great. Pa! 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 No matter how Cheng Hao attacked, Ling Han somehow always acted later, yet struck first. Each slap sent Cheng Hao stumbling, and the power behind his attacks dissipated on its own. I understand now, Ling Han's strength isn't as great as Cheng Hao's. It seems to be only around the 4th or 5th layer of the body refining tier, but his 6th sense is terrifying. Every time Cheng Hao makes a move, it's as if Ling Han already knows where the attack will land and adjusts in advance. 4th or 5th layer of the body refining tier? Impossible. He has the 5 elements disarray spirit base. Even if he wished to break through to the middle stage of the body refining tier, he wouldn't be able to do so until at least the age of 20. Regardless of his cultivation level, just his ability to read attacks is frightening enough. After observing for some time, the students gradually uncovered this secret. In truth, it was very simple. Ling Han predicted all of Cheng Hao's strikes and reacted in advance, compensating for the gap in their cultivation levels. Cheng Hao, however, had been slapped into complete disarray. A persistent buzzing filled his head. His face was scarlet and swollen, transforming into that of a pig. Only the fury in his heart drove him to continue attacking, yet all of it was futile effort. At last, fear crept into his heart, and he no longer dared to make another move. But how could Ling Han simply let the matter end? The barrage of slaps continued. Soon, Cheng Hao's lips split open and fresh blood flowed. He looked utterly miserable. At this point, no one dared step forward to intervene. "I surrender this time. Don't hit me anymore," Cheng Hao pleaded. Yet Ling Han did not cease. In the past, when Cheng Hao had bullied his predecessor, had he ever shown mercy? Ling Han thrashed him a while longer before speaking coldly. "Kneel! What?" Cheng Hao felt the demand was absurd beyond measure. This trash dared command him to kneel? If he truly knelt, not only would his pride shatter completely, even the Cheng clan would become a laughingstock. After all, he was the second son of the Cheng clan's clan head. This was going too far. Even when he and his elder brother had bullied Ling Han in the past, they had only dared beat him until his body was covered in injuries. They had never dared force him to kneel. This could very well ignite a blood feud between the two clans. Translator, Dark Angel. Editor, Kurisu. Ling Han, do not go too far. Cheng Hao lifted his head and roared, his voice laced with fury and humiliation. On this matter, he neither could nor would retreat even half a step. Ling Han let out a deep, thunderous laugh, as though a blade had been drawn from its sheath. "And here I was worried you might yield," he said indifferently, "and leave me without reason to take your life." This fellow wants to kill me?" Cheng Hao's entire body quaked as though plunged into an icy abyss. He stared at Ling Han and saw upon that face a merciless chill. There was no jest within those eyes. His limbs trembled uncontrollably as he stammered. "Do you intend to provoke a blood feud between our two great clans? Do you wish to become the greatest sinner in the history of the Ling clan?" "A mere Cheng clan," Ling Han replied with utter disdain, "and you dare flap about before me? If your Cheng clan dares to make a move, I will exterminate every last one of you." Boom! The surrounding crowd erupted into shocked cries. What outrageous words! The Ling clan and the Cheng clan were both towering powers within Grey Cloud Town. Their strengths were evenly matched. If open conflict erupted, neither side would emerge victorious. Both would suffer grievously. Thus, though each clan harboured the desire to erase the other and claim sole dominion over Grey Cloud Town, neither dared to strike first, and yet Ling Han, this so-called trash, declared that he alone would wipe out the Cheng clan. Was this not madness? Yet as they gazed upon Ling Han's fierce countenance, his entire body radiating an indescribable pressure, for reasons unknown, their tongues fell silent. In that instant, they all felt the same thing. This youth before them was no longer the useless trash they once knew. Several young maidens even felt their eyes brighten. Such presence, such bearing. Their knees inexplicably weakened. How arrogant! There's no need for others. My elder brother alone can suppress you single-handedly. Cheng Hao shouted stubbornly, defiance etched across his face. In his mind, Ling Han was nothing more than a plaything he and his elder brother Cheng Xiang had bullied countless times. That Ling Han had now reversed their positions and suppressed him was something he could never accept. "Pah!" Ling Han's palm flashed once more across Cheng Hao's face. In a voice that carried awe and menace, he asked, "So you truly wish to die?" If the Cheng clan sought retaliation, Ling Han would not mind using this as an opportunity to eliminate them entirely. Considering Zhu Heixin's reverence toward him, asking him to intervene would be but a minor matter. Though Zhu Heixin was no martial genius, he possessed cultivation at the gushing spring tier. To eradicate the Cheng clan would be child's play. If the Cheng clan insisted on courting destruction, Ling Han would not hesitate to borrow Zhu Heixin's blade. Cold sweat streamed down Cheng Hao's face. Before Ling Han, he felt an overwhelming pressure and the unmistakable aura of imminent death. This youth was no longer the Ling Han he once bullied. He was now a terrifying god of death. "Pah!" His legs gave way and he collapsed to his knees. Faced with the choice between life and pride, he abandoned pride without hesitation. After all, once dead, everything ends. He truly knelt. The entire arena erupted into uproar. Cheng Hao was the second young master of the Cheng clan, someone who largely represented the clan itself. For such a figure to kneel and before a member of their rival clan, this humiliation could be carved forever upon the Cheng clan's plaque of shame. So Cheng Hao bullied the weak but cowered before the strong. How had no one discerned this cowardly nature before? After brief reflection, the answer seemed simple. As the second young master, basking always in glory, who would dare challenge him? Naturally, none could see that beneath his domineering exterior lurked a coward. But Ling Han was truly tyrannical, forcing the second young master of the Cheng clan to kneel. Was he not afraid of igniting war between the two clans? "So cool!" shrieked the young girls already enthralled by Ling Han's earlier display. "Ling Han, have you done enough?" Cheng Hao gritted through clenched teeth. Only one thought in his mind. Escape now, find his elder brother, and return to reclaim his honor and avenge this humiliation. "Crawl out of here!" Ling Han said calmly. "What?" Cheng Hao thought he had misheard. "Pah!" Ling Han kicked him in the back, forcing him onto his hands and knees. "Ling Han, you dare humiliate me like this? I'll kill you! Kill you!" Cheng Hao nearly lost his sanity. Kneeling was already the greatest disgrace imaginable. But to lie prone and crawl out? "So what if I insult you?" "Trash!" Ling Han replied coldly. Had the Cheng brothers not insulted him countless times before? They dared act so because they had once been stronger, and disputes among the younger generation could not involve the elders, so long as no death or permanent injury occurred. Otherwise, the elders would become laughingstocks. "You either crawl out or you die here. Choose," Ling Han declared. So domineering, was this truly Ling Han? The crowd stood dumbstruck. They once mocked him as trash, but what kind of trash forced the second young master of the Cheng clan to kneel and crawl like a dog? He was astonishing. Cheng Hao's sweat poured like rain. He neither wished to become a clan sinner nor to suffer such public humiliation. Yet in the face of death, his will faltered. Slowly he moved his hands and began crawling across the ground. Ha! Laughter erupted. Like contagion, it spread and more joined in. The second young master of the Cheng clan crawling like a dog, this spectacle was rare indeed. Tears streamed down Cheng Hao's face. Clenching his fists, he swore in his heart to kill Ling Han. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him! After crawling more than 10 steps, he sprang up and fled the martial training court. He would find Cheng Xiang and slaughter Ling Han. Pa! 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 Applause rang out, drawing all eyes. Silence fell as they turned toward the slender, beautiful girl who had clapped. Shen Ziyan ceased applauding and said, I admit it was an exciting performance, but do you think such antics can move me? You're deluding yourself. Do not think I do not understand your intentions. Unfortunately, the gap between us is far too vast. You cannot even compare to my little finger. To be liked by someone like you is a complete insult to me. You think too highly of yourself. Idiot! Ling Han shook his head. For his predecessor's sake, he did not wish to bother with this foolish girl. With my martial talent, I will be renowned in the future and create miracles even as a woman. Shen Ziyan proclaimed loftily. There's no need to speak further. I know everything you've done was to attract my attention. But regretfully, I will never glance at someone like you. Everything between us ended long ago. I don't mind telling you, I have already obtained an invitation to Huyang Academy and will officially enter next year. You, a mere piece of trash, dare to like me? You are not qualified. Not qualified. Not qualified. Fine. Let her speak. Of course she would be admired. She was beautiful and gifted. If someone claimed not to like her, that must be reverse psychology to attract her notice. To be narcissistic to such an extent, she was truly peculiar. Even Ling Han was speechless. Ordinarily, he would respond to such shamelessness with a solid slap. 9th layer of body refining tier, challenging, but not impossible. His gaze turned icy. Just as he was about to step forward, his eyes caught sight of a beautiful figure entering the martial training court. Liu Yutong, an unparalleled beauty who drew attention wherever she went. Instantly, all gazes shifted to her form. Stunned expressions spread. So beautiful! Shen Ziyan was indeed lovely, but compared to this woman, she paled. Moreover, Liu Yutong possessed an indescribable elegance, like a noble princess. Shen Ziyan's so-called beauty now seemed rustic. One thought filled every heart. Who was she? A goddess descended from heaven? How could beauty be so cool and refined? To harbour improper thoughts toward her felt like blasphemy. Under their astonished stares, Liu Yutong passed Ling Han without pause and continued forward. Naturally, had she stopped, they would have been even more shocked. How could trash like Ling Han have any connection to such a goddess? Shen Ziyan felt suffocated by pressure. The other's beauty stirred inferiority and burning jealousy within her. In looks, figure, demeanour, she was utterly outclassed. No matter how she resisted admitting it, she could only grit her teeth. Liu Yutong stopped before Shen Ziyan. With a casual wave, "Pah!" A crisp, resounding slap struck Shen Ziyan's face. You! Shen Ziyan was stunned. Then fury exploded within her. Her right hand lashed out with equal force. But what could the 9th layer of body refining tier do against the 9th layer of element gathering tier? Pah! Another slap descended from Liu Yutong's hand. Shen Ziyan's hair became dishevelled, her face swollen. Though pitiful in appearance, her eyes burned with venom. She shrieked and attacked again. It was futile. Pa! Pa! Slap after slap fell upon her, as though she were but a doll incapable of resistance. Gasps filled the air. The two girls appeared similar in age. Why was the difference so vast? Who was this icy beauty, and why was she slapping Shen Ziyan? What right do you have to be proud? Liu Tong asked coldly.